Diamond P Sports presents from the National Hot Rod Association Championship Drag Racing, the 21st annual running of the Winston World Finals. Speeds in excess of 260 miles an hour. Elapsed times in less than 6 seconds. Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. Their concentration is totally on their starting line technique, trying to get the advantage off the starting line over their competitor. And it is a great start. Look at Beck. He just launches right ahead, but here comes Ormsby. It's going to be a close race, but the start by Gary Beck in the TRW Keystone Hurst Special. That is Joe Amato in the far lane. Amato has got to contend with the fact that the last two cars down that lane have smoked the tires, but not Amato. Look at him. He's got a half a car length lead over Garlitz, and it is Joe Amato with the upset win. And the Krager Weld Wheel Classic going to Joe Amato, 5.51 seconds at 255 miles an hour. This Pomona quarter mile has seen some tremendous runs, but one of the most awesome was the effort by Diamond Dave Miller in the far lane. Let's watch. A huge engine explosion, a ball of fire, the parts flying everywhere, and Dave Miller has got his hands full. The engine continues to burn as the parachute deploys, and Miller trying to bring the car to a stop. As we see from a different angle, tremendous the impact and the force of that explosion. The parts flying through the air, the fire burning out of the engine as Miller hard on the brakes, keeping the car very straight, the parachute beginning to deploy, but Miller an expensive effort on his part in qualifying. It's Garlitz in the near lane, LaHaye in the far lane. It was a good start for both cars, some tire smoke off LaHaye's car. It appeared to be an easy run for Garlitz, but then all of a sudden, oil started coming out. Flames licked out from beneath the car. Garlitz got the car stopped. He was uninjured. The car was basically undamaged, except for those engine problems. Amato was in the near lane, Mullins in the far lane. Amato had a slight hole shot, an advantage off the starting line, but look at the thundering carry come both cars. The Christmas tree goes green, and Ormsby with a hole shot. Garlitz has got problems. His car slows, and it is Ormsby across the finish line first, and one of the big upsets of this meet. And at the World Finals, Don Prudhomme was racing against Trip Shoemake in the In-N-Out Burger Special. And Don Prudhomme gave every indication that he has regained the performance level that he enjoyed for so many years as he established a new national record of over 264 miles an hour, raced against the Pontiac Trans Am, the old Milwaukee Special of Candies and Hues, with the reigning world champion Mark Oswald at the wheel. A brilliant driving job by Oswald, but just a bit more horsepower for John Force, and Force defeated the reigning Somerset Regal body, the fiberglass replica body that is gracing the funny car of Poldy and Mike Hamby. It was a tremendous race, very close, and at the finish line, just by a margin of inches, Tim Gross pulls out the win. Ron Correnti. Meyer in the near lane, Correnti in the far lane, and Correnti pulls about a car length ahead. Can Meyer come back to catch him? No, but Ron Correnti smokes an engine. His car owner, Bill Dunlap, is ecstatic with the victory. His competition is nowhere to be seen. Gene Snow is trying to get the engine started. The crew working diligently over it, but nothing happening. The engine trying to fire, but it's not working right, and Snow just throws up his hand and shakes his head. He says he doesn't know. Gary Beck does another burnout. That gives Snow even more time, and the crew looking it over, some helpers coming around trying to offer suggestions, but Snow looking, and that's a terrible position to be in, sitting in front of the motor. Everybody behind you working, and you can't tell what's happening. Gary Beck, though, knows that he is yet to see his competition, and the crew looking at it, trying to figure out what is the problem. They're working around the ignition system, seeing if that may be the difficulty. And while the work goes on, Gary Beck's engine continuing to run, and there will be a point where there will be no more time for Gene Snow. The crew now appearing to take the magneto apart. But for Gary Beck, he is into the staging beams, and Gene Snow out of competition, the engine unable to fire. Now, Gary Beck has got to take a shot at the elapsed time of 5.56 seconds if he wants lane choice. He streaks through the quarter mile. His elapsed time, 5.55 seconds. By 100th of a second, he gets lane choice, and Gene Snow out of his car, taking off his protective uniform.
Well, Gene Snow, after all the smiles from the 5:49 in the second round, then you sat bolted into the cockpit, totally frustrated.
Well, we had the magneto in wrong and no way it could ever start, and that certainly is frustrating. We hadn't even hurt the motor on the run before the 5:49.
Well, you're not the first crew to ever put it in 180 degrees out. That's happened to a lot of racers.
Yeah, it happens. We discussed it. I said after we leaked the motor and it leaked good, I said we got two choices. We can take it apart and be sure it's right, but also at the same time take a chance of doing something wrong when we put it back together, or we can go ahead and run it and maybe have missed something. So we elected to take it apart, and gosh, it's just one of those things that happen.
Bob Glidden matching up, earned the right to go into the finals, and taking their time before the starting light comes on. Glidden finally into the staging beams, and it's a good start for Lapone. Side by side they go down the racetrack, and it is oh so close. Joe Lapone is declared the winner, and Lapone defeats Bob Glidden to advance into the finals. So it'll be two Chevrolets. Joe Lapone Jr. with his crew chief Bill Jenkins turning the wrenches against Bruce Allen at the wheel of the rare and Morrison Camaro out of Hendrick Motorsport. As we watch again, look at the wheels up start on this Chevy and the Ford. They both lift the front wheels high off of the asphalt. They head down track, and at the finish line, it is an extremely close race. At this point, Joe Lapone has got the advantage. But as we see in our stop action, they are crossing the finish line side by side. NHRA ruled that Joe Lapone Jr. won the race. The drivers now concentrating on their starting technique. They come into the staging beams as easily as possible, and it's a red light start for Bruce Allen. He anticipated just a little too soon and left the red light. The disqualification for Allen, and Joe Lapone Jr. has won his first ever NHRA national title. They've got to be thinking, how can I pull out this win? And Prudhomme drifts close to the center line. He goes across the center line. That means disqualification, and Bernstein has won another race. The crew overjoyed with the victory. All the effort by the crew is over at this moment, though. For the drivers, the sole responsibility is theirs. And it's a great start. Beck out front by about a half a car length at this point. Can Ormsby come from behind? It is very close, and an engine explosion for Ormsby. The parts go flying, and Ormsby's engine, the supercharger, laid off to one side. A huge ball of flame. Gary Beck won the race, and Gary Ormsby lost the war. Well, I'll tell you, that is one classic way to finish a drag race. As Gary Beck pulls ahead at the starting line, he holds on to that lead throughout. But Gary Ormsby did not give up. He stretched that engine to the limit. In fact, he stretched it so far that it exploded just as he crossed the finish line. There's the first flash of flame, and it explodes into a huge ball. There you can see the engine lets go, the parts going high in the air and bouncing off the pavement. Gary Beck, the winner, is ahead of him, but a disappointment for Gary Ormsby.